Hello, everyone. My name is TrupsLP, and joining me for our weekly political recap, as always, is the Moist Lord himself, Omegon. Say hello, Omegon.
Hello.
How is Omegon today?
Omegon is usually and typically and perpetually miserable.
Ah,
How's
yes.
how's
Crippling
Trups?
depression.
Well,
Um, I mean, combating the crippling depression myself, so we can all be miserable together. There's misery loves company,
I
right?
wonder if there's a miserable variant on Kumbaya. Hmm.
I'm sure there's a version in minor.
Yay. Let me go and get my ukulele and down tune it.
Ooh, or yeah, I guess you could just tune it down and incorrectly. That'll make
I'll
everyone
play a
upset.
nice depressing note. Give me a sec. No, that's just a D. Fuck it.
Yeah, yeah, I got that.
That's all you get.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Serenaded for one evening. So what has
Indeed.
Trups LP been doing?
Trump's LP has been in self-imposed isolation to combat my brain. It has been definitely a week for me, and it's been working out quite well, I think.
For greater context for those who are interested, Trups has a high IQ and has been dealing with his own internalized race realism. Let's go with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say internalized misogyny, internalized
No,
race
no, no.
realism.
Let's go with the one that makes no sense. Internalized race realism.
Ah, yes, of course. That is, of course, my worst time. I've spent it with my high IQ watching Rick and Morty, as you can imagine.
I got behind the first two seasons. I didn't get as invested as other people, in the sense of the fandom that gets pretty insane. But
You
season
know,
three, started with a very confusing beginning in that he just got out by tricking them with his own mind, in his own mind.
I respect people who enjoy the show for the sake of the show, but
Hmm.
cringe humor is not something that I can get behind all
Oh,
the time.
the Office just drove me insane. UK Office, cringe humor.
Oh
I couldn't
God,
I couldn't do it. It just
that and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
yeah. No, we're not doing that. Thank you. But Rick and
But
Morty, I was going to buy the DVDs recently when I went to meet up with Ed and Joe for sushi, and I went into the music store, entertainment store as it were, and
yeah,
and the DVDs were like 20 quid for 10 episodes. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. I'm
it's
not
so not
paying. I'm not
necessary.
paying 60 quid for 3 seasons of something. No, we're not doing that. Well, I
Get
would
it
for
on
some.
sale.
Yeah, I was looking. Everything else was on sale except for Rick and Morty. We're not
It's
doing
probably the
this.
only thing that made the store money.
Probably. So where would you like to start today? Would you like to start with something small on my end, and then go into
Yeah,
something
sure. Let's
bigger?
let's do that
Okay, so
because I have so much to talk about with the William Barr thing. It's
that's
it's a lot.
yeah. I mean, I've got a fair few things. We'll go with the one that I haven't put much time into because it bugs me. So during the PMQs, there was discussion about money being put aside, um, and deals being made to deal with certain trade-related issues. This involved setting up a deal with Seafair, something, Seagate, some company that didn't even have boats, and yet we were going to put £10 million in their pockets. Now the boats would have come from from a Irish company that would have then taken part control of Sea whatever Seaborne Freight. That was the name, and the contract was worth 13.8 million to Seaborne Freight, and it would have created jobs in Ramsgate. Ramsgate's a port, but it doesn't actually get used. It would have created a line between there and Brussels. Well, not Brussels, but near enough, and it would have been great for the local community. Many criticised Chris Grayling, the transport minister, secretary, retard, because he was putting money aside in the event of no deal for this to continue. Now, the purpose of the Ramsgate one was so that it would deal with medical supplies. Right. Now, the problem here is, with companies like P&O, another freight or boat company, suing the government over the ferry case, and Eurotunnel challenging the government over the Brexit ferry deals because they were secretive. The National Audit Office has estimated that the cancellation costs, which include the administrative charges, let's go with that, for the cost of all the ferry contracts at over £56.6 million because of them being axed. That meant money had been put up front. Now, this does not include the additional 33 million also paid to Eurotunnel, which was because Eurotunnel challenged them over the procurement process for acquiring these ferry contracts.
And is Eurotunnel another ferry company?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Let's go with yes. It deals with the Channel Tunnel stuff.
Okay. Transportation.
Yeah. Well, the Department for Transportation now has, more legal challenges, like I said, from Europe, from P&O, who are a ferry company. It's a simple case that by cancelling the contracts, it's going to cost more than had they just kept them, or just gone down the path of no deal. And Chris Grayling, he's got a bit of a reputation. Now, he said this was part of the deals, the council contracts were part of a £4 billion no-deal insurance policy. And Event Hello in the chat is quite right. Ramsgate does an investment. I see Ramsgate from where I sometimes. When I walk along the seafront, I walk to Sandown. If I look from Sandown across, I can see Ramsgate across the ocean gap between us, and I think Ramsgate deserves it. I've gone through Ramsgate many times in the past. It is neglected. The money would have done them so good, and I think it could have become more because it meant then that a new ferry, a new port would have been in use, and it would have developed and grown and become more, which is what we needed. And I think Chris Grayling, he has a reputation for being a bit inept. It's weird that after 9 years, I think he's been Transport Secretary for a long time, but he has made so many mistakes. Some of the biggest ones are parliamentary procedure based, where he doesn't provide anyone with any information before he presents it to Parliament, which is very much unparliamentary. To give people time to scrutinise and offer counters where there need to be some. He is renowned for this. But also his handling of, the trains. Yeah, he's not... How he still has a job at this point baffles everyone. You could be the smartest... Go on.
It sounds like to me like Ramsgate is a port in I would assume probably a not so developed area.
It's
not that the town is bad, but like it's just not developed as much.
It suffered a bit when it came to money. Like the council at one point, I think they had to front the costs for some of this stuff to the tune of a few million, and I think that was unfair because that money that they themselves had to pay the council, as opposed to the government who put this money into it and then fucked it up. They should be the ones to pay for it, not Ramsgate Council. But there was never any clarity as to who was meant to pay it. And I think it would end up going to Ramsgate. Ramsgate has a fantastic train station. I used to use it a lot. It's like a go-between like going from the bottom of Kent or around to it's like a go-between. It's that.
Sure, yeah, I got you.
It's where most changeovers happen. Let's go with that. And it's not a bad place, to be honest. But it's been neglected, and that's not. And it's wrong that, yes, it was an insurance policy, but they're now having to pay out money that we could otherwise use elsewhere. Like, why don't you just, since you've taken away something for them, give them the money instead so they can use it to invest in Ramsgate? It's
okay, fair enough.
As far as I'm concerned, I think he has wasted. Most have argued he's wasted billions of pounds. There is a valid argument for it, because a lot of his policies have gone to ruin because the trains are still being subsidised to the tune of billions every year, bailed out in some instances, because they're hiking the prices yet not improving the quality, because the people who own the lines aren't improving the lines, those who own the trains aren't improving the trains, and yet they are both being subsidised by the government and bailed out because they're the privately owned companies are having to spend X amount of their money on shareholders for their stocks. It's just
Right.
I'm not against privatization, by the way. I'm really not. But I do understand. I think a lot of people need to understand certain consequences that then would eventually, inevitably affect your profit margin if you can't improve the service you're meant to provide. And the government shouldn't have to keep bailing you out. It's a waste of public money.
Well, not only that, but it excuses the people who fucked up from actually having to take responsibility for their action.
Exactly. And so Chris Grayling's handling of all of this is always a case that he just throws money at it. He's very much, I don't know, he gives in to the companies. I don't know why he does it. I can understand why with buses, because a lot of pensioners use buses. So we paid some of the bus companies to keep certain lines going because they're not the busiest, but pensioners need the buses. And some young people as well. So I get it. The train thing, though, should have already been able to stand on its own 2 feet, but it isn't, and it's embarrassing now. So
Well,
many are
sounds
saying,
like somebody needs to investigate this guy for being not, I don't want to say corrupt, but it kind of sounds a little bit.
I think many have argued that quite a lot, and there is an argument to be made of it, because he always seems to fob it off, and I think his excuses have run their course. While I
Right.
support his
That's what
stance,
I'm thinking.
while I support his stance on Brexit, I don't support his being transport minister anymore. I stopped many years ago, to be fair, because he's just useless. Oh, right, Graving Ram May's leadership camp. Oh, that would explain it. Thank you, Cyrene, for explaining it. That would explain why he still has a job over other people. Anyway, I'm done with Grayling. I think many would
Sounds like
say,
a cunt.
go on.
I said, in my professional opinion, sounds like a cunt.
Oh, he is. Most of the Tory party front bench are. You hear them speak, and the first thing your hand does is ball into a fist.
Mm.
You just want to pull back and follow through.
I understand that kind of pain.
Don't telegraph it though. Okay. Would you like to
Yes.
talk about something on your mind, or shall I move on to another one of my
Yes,
subjects?
yes. I'd love to talk about William Barr. So,
Ooh,
do you remember last week we discussed how William Barr would likely be brought before the Senate?
I did see a video of him being brought before something.
Yeah, he was brought before the Intelligence Committee, and he was attempted to be brought before the Senate Judiciary Committee. The Senate Judiciary is the one that Jerry Nadler chairs.
Right.
The Intelligence Committee is the one that is chaired by Lindsey Graham. You'll remember Lindsey Graham being the one during the Kavanaugh hearing who basically like railed into everyone
The
for
video we
putting
played
on.
last week. Was it
I
last week or the
think
week
so.
before, where it was 5 minutes of him just saying we're bringing a known liar to testify?
Oh no, that was another person. That
Oh, my
was Jim
mistake.
Jeffrey.
Sorry.
Not Jim Jordan.
Right,
Jim
my
Jeffries.
mistake.
Fucking hell. Um, no. But Lindsey Graham was during the Kavanaugh hearing when he was like, "This is the biggest sham. Are you a rapist? No. I can't believe what you and your family have been put through." Um,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, he's a senator from South Carolina. He's the
Gotcha.
chair of the Intelligence Committee.
Okay.
William Barr testified before the Intelligence Committee, and there was plenty of questions to go around there. But a lot of the people on the Intelligence Committee were 2020 presidential candidates. So you can imagine that the questions they asked of Barr were mostly platitudes for their run as presidential candidates, saying, "Oh, look at me! I'm asking the hard-hitting progressive questions that mean absolutely nothing."
Right.
The people who did that of note were people like Kamala Harris,
Oh,
um, and she was probably the one that mattered the most. At
well,
least
she is
they
presidential.
they used.
She's running for president, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. But a lot of her questions, basically, Bar had the answers, but they were all like attempted leading questions. Here, let me grab a transcript because it would be much
Mm-hmm.
easier uh, if I actually had something to show or say.
Cool. I'll read the chat. Let's see. Deep voice for a princess. Thank you. Hello, TC. And I'm wearing a dress because I'm beautiful. I would have thought the crown did enough, but whatever. I don't mind. Um, and yes, Paul Gascoigne, we will address the council elections in a bit. Because, yes, while there are a number of arguments about what they actually do, many say they do bugger all. They do something. And unfortunately for people like Theresa May, it is a reality shock. Keyboard is much quieter, yes, thank you. If it wasn't for the fact I type quite fast, it probably wouldn't be as noticeable. If I slowed down, it won't be a problem. I'm the prettiest Cthulhu, thank you, Nicholas. And yes, Roger, you focused on the details as opposed to my beautiful tutu.
Okay, so I posted a thing in sources,
Oh, right, I will
and
go and get it.
the most important question is actually the very first one
Right, hang on.
because it.
Do you
Go
want me to
ahead.
play this?
Yes.
Okay, let's...
After Kamala Harris finishes her statement, feel free to pause it because I
Okay,
need to
then
rip
I'll
into this
press
one.
play now then. And no audio at all because I've got YouTube muted. Hang on a second. My apologies. I muted YouTube because I had the chat popped out on our stream. Give me a second. Let's
It's all right.
unmute YouTube.
It's about 9 seconds that
That's
she
fine.
asked the question
Has the
in.
president or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone? Yes or no, please, sir?
Is that the question you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is literally one of the most asinine questions I have ever heard in my life. So remember, William Barr is the Attorney General of the United States. He's basically the top prosecutor of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And Kamala Harris asked, "Has the White House or the president asked you to investigate anyone ever?" Um, what?
I don't know what to say
So
to that.
right, it's basically like asking somebody, "Have you ever been asked to do your job?"
Well, okay, so it sounds like a loaded question then.
Yes, it is, without a doubt, and that's why the look on Barr's face is one of confusion and concern.
Well, I think, okay, so she looks like she's waiting for that answer so she can like, yeah, I've got you. I'm gonna have an orgasm now. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's a loaded question, so most intelligent people would know that. I think if her intention is to then push from a loaded stance, then he could then say, "This is just a loaded question." Why I don't know why people in these meetings, when they get these questions or this type of questioning, they don't just say, "You do realize that's a loaded question," because I think
But
it's something you never see, and I think people should just do it.
well, it's even more than that because um you after I finish, we can actually let it play because Barr is even more confused as to what she's getting at. Like, okay, if he's smart, he goes, okay, so if this is a loaded question, she must be leading me to an end. What is that end? And so he tries to question like further, like, what are you talking about? So we can go ahead and let that play.
Okay, I will press play.
The president or anybody else.
Seems you would remember something like that and be able to tell us.
Yeah, but I'm trying to grapple with the word suggest. I mean, there have been discussions of matters out there that they have not asked me to open an investigation, but
Perhaps they've suggested,
I don't know, I wouldn't say suggest.
hinted.
I don't know.
Inferred? You don't know.
I
Okay,
get
pause.
it. I know
Will
what
you
she-
agree to
oh.
consult career DOJ ethics officials about whether your recusal from the 14 investigations that have been discussed by my colleagues is necessary?
Okay.
I don't see any basis for it. I already consulted with them and
You have consulted with them about the 14 other investigations?
about the Mueller case.
Have you consulted with the career DOJ ethics officials about the appropriateness of you being involved or recusing yourself
Well, what-
from the 14 other investigations that
On
have
what
been referred
basis?
out?
On what basis?
Conflict of interest, clear
What's
conflict
my
of interest.
What's my conflict of interest?
I think the American public has seen quite well that you are biased in this situation and you've not been objective, and that would arguably be the conflict of
Well,
interest.
I haven't been the only decision maker here. Now, let's take the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, who was approved by this Senate 94-6, with specific discussion on the floor that he would be responsible for supervising the Russian investigation.
Now, the special counsel's investigation.
You can
produced
go
a
ahead and
great
pause
deal of-
that.
Yeah, I kind of. Yeah. She was. Yeah, she was leading him.
Yeah, big time, but like to the point where so this was a common thing that went on during the Senate hearing. I think you know what I'm talking about because another senator, Hirano from Hawaii, also made that kind of bullshit comment.
Yeah.
And Barr is just like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And this went on for 6 to 7 hours, by the way.
Oh dear.
That's how long this Senate hearing was. And essentially what ended up happening was William Barr decided that he he tried to answer all these questions as well as he could. But honestly, they were asking the same kinds of questions as the Mueller investigation, like truthers, in a sense. Like, oh, there's Russian collusion, obstruction. It's there. Mueller didn't find it, but we know it's there.
But now they're trying
So-
to devalue Barr to then try and find a way to re-legitimize the report of something in the or I don't know. They're trying to still find a way to make it seem like Russia was involved.
Right. Well, so what's interesting is what basically came out of this hearing was that the Republicans saw how they were handling, or how the Democrats were handling their questions, and noticed that Russia wasn't too much on the table, but obstruction commentary was definitely on the table.
Right.
And so much so that they are now questioning if Barr is now complicit in the obstruction of justice. They could not get Trump with the Mueller report, so some have made the comment that trying to impeach or force a resignation or a recusal from by Barr would be kind of their consolation prize for their attempt.
Because then that would show some sign of guilt on Trump's part.
Yes, correct. But the funny thing is that Barr is too smart for his own good in that sense. Or I say too smart for his own good, but I really mean too smart.
I get what you mean because he was trying to work out where she was leading him.
Right. So he'll entertain the stupidity, to give them just enough rope to hang themselves. People have been using, these comments like, "Oh, Kamala Harris went away beautifully after the Senate hearing." No, she didn't. She got made to look like a fool.
Future president,
And-
everyone.
Right, and I really get like, it pisses me off. Obviously, media portrayal of all this, because you can tell very much just by, okay, you watch that clip. Okay, let's see how like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News are all reporting on that same issue, and you see these clear, party lines drawn. Oh, Kamala Harris handled herself beautifully. Oh, Barr looked like a fool on the stand. Well, hold on. Are you guys watching the same thing I am? Because it honestly looks like Barr didn't have an answer for such a dumbass comment.
I think this is going to backfire on Kamala Harris spectacularly, if it hasn't already.
Not to the point where
I think it will when it
she's
comes. If
Joe
say
Biden.
she gets the nomination, she's fucked in the debates because that kind of crap can be brought and used against her.
Oh, absolutely. And especially because one of the comments she eventually asks is, how does somebody, um, float a request for an investigation
Mm-hmm.
all the way up?
Yep.
And and she's a former attorney, right?
Yep.
And so he explains how they float up like, to a supervisor role, how eventually an investigation would get up to the attorney general, and he can say whether or not that's worth going into or not, depending on the level of severity and things of that nature.
Right.
But she asks the question as if she doesn't know,
Mm-hmm.
which honestly makes her look more incompetent as what she formerly was, which is an attorney, than.
Or she might have been a really rubbish attorney, to be fair.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
In the chat, someone asked, Trups, they asked, aren't attorney generals biased anyway because they're chosen by the president?
you could say that, yes, but in the sense where they are appointed by the
Mm-hmm.
president, it would
Yep.
be the same idea as if you would say that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is biased because she was appointed by, I believe, was it Bush or Reagan, one of the two? But I know it was a Republican, but she is very liberal. So one
It
could
sounds
say
more
that,
like
sure.
sounds more like a Bush person then, but I could always look it up.
I'm looking it up right now. Nope. Appointed by Bill Clinton.
Oh wow, yeah, 93, yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually later than I
Point
thought.
is, the if a
Oh, hang on, isn't
if
she? Is
a
she a Republican?
no,
Then that makes
maybe.
because I
I don't think so.
okay, never mind. Don't worry about it.
Oh no, she's liberal. But the point is, like, if a president were to appoint a opposite party Supreme Court justice, one could make the same argument. Well, because she was appointed by this person, clearly she has a bias in on behalf of that person. No, they were appointed to be unbiased.
Yeah,
The question is, do you honestly believe that the appointed person is unbiased? And that has to do with your opinion of the person who is doing the appointing and the history of the other person. Now, you could argue that William Barr, having previously served as Attorney General underneath Bill Clinton, he would actually be an unbiased party. But because Trump was the one who appointed him, that's a no-no. So you could make the argument, you'd have a hard time substantiating it. We need proportional representation. No, we don't.
oh god, that's the.
We need
Many argue against the system you have, of course, because of the electoral college. They argue against our system for first past the post because there are huge flaws in all of them.
well, of course, but the question is, after a while, what works best for your people?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for example, if we radically just swapped governments, right, you'd have an outcry from both your country and mine because it's not what we want. And arguably, that is what a government is set up to be. It is supposed to be a vehicle for the common person to interact with their government, to make their elected officials either answerable to the whole of the people or a majority of the each individual area. So in the sense that we have the electoral college, which is a concatenation of a whole bunch of smaller districts in each state, which
Yeah.
is the same as the Senate representation. I'm sorry, House representation.
Right.
Those areas then vote, and the majority of those then get converted into electoral college votes. It's almost the same as if you had your House rep vote on your behalf.
With regards to back onto William Barr, what else has been going on in the sense of his mounting problems? Let's go with that. People's behaviours in trying to blame him. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
I asked. Okay, so basically, I'm going to lead you straight to it. What have the
Okay,
Democrats
go ahead.
been? What have the Democrats been doing to try and get rid of him, or discredit him, or tear him apart?
They have basically said that the way that he has presented the okay, so the biggest thing was that they were complaining that when Mueller, when Barr sent out his original 4-page summary of the Mueller report, Mueller had then sent him a letter 3 days later saying, "Hey, I don't agree with your characterization in these couple places." Barr then gave him a phone call, and they agreed to release the 19 pages of the very beginning of the Mueller report, summarizing the rest of it.
Okay, was that what we covered? Wasn't it?
That was. And Barr didn't want to do it piecewise in parts. He wanted to send out the whole thing all at the same time. So
Mhm.
2 weeks later, he releases the full Mueller report, redacted, of course.
Of course.
And they are upset at how fast those 19 pages were released. But essentially, what it breaks down to is that they didn't like that he talked, basically.
Yeah.
He spoke, and that was wrong.
Right. That's not
They
great.
they wanted Mueller's thing to stand for itself, which also means that they really wanted the media to coerce the American people,
It sounds
not
like
him.
they were. Yeah, that's dishonest. That's not how Barr should. And Barr was right. Hello.
Yes, sorry, I was fixing my hookah. Yes, unfortunately, Barr is right in this, but that is only to the detriment of the Democratic Party. The Republicans love the way that he's been handling it because he's honestly been as impartial and as hands off as he can be. Sure, he has his personal opinions on the whole Mueller investigation, but here's the thing that gets really interesting. So, the investigation for Mueller was into Russian collusion, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And he is accused of obstructing justice, correct?
Correct.
Okay. They found no collusion, so if he is to be guilty of obstruction of justice, what justice was supposed to be served?
That's a mystery. I'm afraid I can't answer that.
There is no justice because no crime was committed, so you can't obstruct something
isn't-
that had no course.
Isn't that where they're trying to fabricate obstruction? Which is
Yes.
what I believe Pelosi's trying to say. Accusing Barr
okay,
of law breaking.
so Barr didn't show up for the second hearing. He didn't show up for the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Does he have to?
Yes and no. Technically he should, but he told them no, that he didn't agree to the pretenses that the Senate Judiciary Committee had voted on, which was to allow staff to ask questions, not senators,
Oh, in that
but
case, then no.
staff.
I understand that he wants to be held to a certain standard, so perhaps he can say, "Yeah, no, I'm up here. Your staff are right down there."
Well, basically, and they also they don't have any right to a Senate panel.
Well, in that case,
The
then he did
staff
not.
does not have a right to a Senate.
Then he didn't do anything wrong.
Correct. But the scariest part was Nadler's response to that, and I am gonna pull up that video.
Oh right, yeah, please do. While you do that, council budgets are so small though. We give our money to the EU, so they send some back and stick paid for by the EU sign our buck. I've seen that, and my general view is councils can suck my noodly appendage with that. Do you want me to play the full 138 clip?
Yes, please.
Oh, 1 second. There we go. Right. Pull the chat up so I don't see it, so I can see it.
At this point, I would introduce the witness, but instead, we will conclude this proceedings. I just want to say, we didn't choose not to have Mr. Barr come. he chose. We cannot permit him or anybody in the administration to dictate the manner in which we function. This does not include our inquiry into the Attorney General's handling of the Mueller report.
Point of parliamentary
or
inquiry.
His conduct before Congress. Nor does it conclude our efforts
I seek recognition
to
for a
compel
parliamentary
production
inquiry.
of the entire report and its underlying materials. We will not hear from the Attorney General today, but this committee intends to obtain the information that it needs to conduct its constitutional oversight and legislative responsibilities. We will defend the prerogatives of Congress. We will defend the rights of the American people to know what's going on. We will defend the constitutional scheme of equal and coordinate branches of government. We will make sure that no president becomes a monarch. We need the information without delay. The hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
And we'll do so with trampling minority rights.
it's going to be, Mr. Chairman, where there is not going to be a recognition of members who seek legitimate inquiry as to the procedures.
Amazing.
He's a fucking dick.
What? That is remarkably... I mean... Okay, so I don't know much about these people, but I don't know the procedure, I don't know how that's supposed to go down, or whether or not anyone can, during those statements, ask to intervene. Normally in British politics, when one is making a speech, for the most part, if it's during debates, discussions, it can be a case where someone says point of order and the speaker gives way. Or someone says, will the right honourable give way? Or will the honourable gentleman or lady give way? In this...
Yeah, it's more or less the same.
He just shut him down, and I noticed next to that guy's name, the one who got silenced, I saw the letter R. I wonder, is Mr. Nadler a D?
Yes.
Because it looks that, just at that point, looks like childish party politics.
Yes, it is. And the leading member, the ranking member of the Republicans in this committee, made that comment about how yesterday, or the day previous, they had basically trampled over minority rights, which is in this case the minority party's rights in those judiciary, those committee hearings.
I'll do.
Now, what he just did essentially accounts to saying, I rule to make a motion on the floor, and that almost always in Robert's rules says that, okay, now the chair must recognize that there is a motion before the floor and they must handle that.
Right.
They don't have a choice.
Gotcha.
He decided to say, fuck parliamentary procedure. I'm going to bang the gavel, close, so he can't say anything. And then as he starts to say and object to all this, he cuts the mic so that he can't talk. I'm like, holy shit. And he complains about Trump being a dictator, and that is the most concerning thing I have ever seen.
I remember seeing this during the with the video that we had with the guy who said the person we're bringing before is a known liar to testify. The chair of that also played similar party politics.
Yes.
And I have to say, I don't care for it. It just looks childish. I don't think that is how you should behave. I also found it fascinating during that man's speech. He mentioned monarchy. And I thought, yeah, actually, if anything, that's similar to the dictatorship thing you reference. I don't see how you can make a... In fact, I'd argue, at that point, with the statement you're making, because you're trying to make I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to make what he believes to be a profound statement. Something so profound that nobody can mic drop him, because it's his own personal mic drop. So personal that he would then hit the kill switch on all the other mics and nobody can contest his mic drop. But unfortunately, by doing so, he's completely undermined his own mic drop. Because
one could even argue that he needs to be removed from chairman for that thing that he did right there.
On a number of occasions you've told me Nadler is a twat, a cunt, a dick, a bitch. You've said that many times, and I've never bothered to look at him or see how he performs. I've only got that video to go on. I don't know whether or not anyone has the right, procedurally, to offer because I don't know how your system is vastly different to ours. In the sense, I don't know if people are allowed to interrupt the chair when they're making statements.
They are.
Right. In that case, then, he is one of the earlier mentioned cunt, twat, bitch, dick, whichever you want. If you can think of a better one, please let me know in the chat. It's an impeachable offence, according to Patriarch of the Sith.
It is.
Oh, Nadler. Collect
What he
P45 at the
did
door.
in his opening statement is he called Trump a dictator for basically saying that I'm going to fight all the subpoenas from Congress regarding my tax returns.
How's that a
Now,
dictator
giving
thing?
up your tax returns is not required. That is precedent. It is something that people have done, but not required. So when they are subpoenaing his tax returns, he does not have to disclose them. He can. And then he would call him a dictator for trying to circumvent the Senate's checks and balances privileges, basically saying that he is trying to undermine the power of the Senate to basically check the executive branch. Okay, you can claim that, but the legislative branch is hardly working properly in and of itself. We have seen that over and over again with every Senate hearing since, 2016. Every Senate hearing, whether it was Kavanaugh, whether it was Barr, whether it was, oh God, what the hell was it? The interim attorney general, him as well. And that poor guy, he wasn't even fucking appointed. He was just in the crossfire.
I love that you were able to talk for the entire time it took me to go and pour myself a glass of moonshine.
Yeah, no problem. But it's absolute fucking bullshit.
It does scream of it. I need to know more about Nadler eventually, and perhaps it would be a good idea to do a stream on him at some point.
I might do a video on his history.
Do that. I'd like to. I think that would be very informative, and I'd very much like to. Perhaps you do that. And do you remember when I suggested doing a video for my channel?
Yeah.
Maybe do that.
Yeah, I could do that.
Or something else. I don't care.
Yeah,
do you want to address the Pelosi stuff as well?
Oh, I couldn't care less, honestly. Pelosi is just parroting the same shit.
Yeah, she accused him of law breaking because of the whole. She said he's lied to Congress.
Yeah, and his lie was
sources linked
not
below.
A lie.
It's not a sources linked below for this. The video links that I've referenced that we used. One of them is linked on the screen. I can on the stream chat. I'll link the other in a minute. Oh shit! There we go. Sorry, I had to close a video link. It's all quite sad, really. Watching such childish behaviour. I find to be quite pathetic.
And by the way, the reason why they thought he was lying about the whole letter from Mueller thing, because that was what they thought. It was basically like, oh, did you know that if Mueller had any opposition to your letter? He goes, no, I'm not aware of anything. Well, he got a letter 3 days after he submitted his letter to Congress, so objectively that could be considered a lie. But the problem was that he called the next day and worked it out.
Gotcha.
So, did he lie? Not really. There was an issue, and then he fixed it.
Yeah.
So, no, he didn't really lie, no.
I have nothing to say to that, really. That was a lot to go through.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to talk about something more light-hearted for a minute, then?
Sure.
Okay, so you are aware that the EU are holding elections. This is not something, by the way, I want to talk about too long, because I've got two more subjects I really want to address. Okay. And we're 44 minutes in already. I don't mind going on. I don't mind going on a bit longer, though, to be fair, because I don't really give a shit.
That's fine.
Unless you're in a hurry, that is.
I am not.
Oh, in that case, then we're fine. So the EU elections are ongoing. I did a video on this today. I thought I'd just try and get your opinion on what's going on. So, to us Brits, we don't really care about them. We never have before. There was an old video of people being memed when they were asked to name 3 things they love about the EU. People said, unironically, the NHS. Something that we created, that we run, we sustain, and we use. We Brits. Something that is considered an envy to many people, others thought was something created by the EU. Put to the point where many couldn't even name their own MEPs, members of European Parliament, for those who don't know what that is. As you know, Tommy Robinson, Count Dankula, and Carl of Akkad are running for MEP seats. Now, this could reach its conclusion where one of them may well win a seat. What do you think of them running for office?
I think it's actually a beautiful turn in politics, and I will explain why.
Go for it.
Because I would love to see the monotony of politicians, lawyers, basically born and bred politicians continue to overshadow in this classist, system that both countries have. In the sense where a shitlord like Sargon or Count Dankula could win a seat in European Parliament, not even just UK Parliament. No, like the entire European Union, they would be a politician there. They could raise hell so much just by having that voice. And it's a beautiful possibility because I don't know if you ever feel this way looking at your politicians, but do they ever seem just completely disconnected from the rest of the world?
The term out of touch is synonymous, and we know this because of how they've handled Brexit and the fallout from recent local elections because of it. I have images saved on my desktop here of spoiled ballots. My ballot I spoiled mine on purpose. For each option, I wrote the word cunt, but we'll get to that in a bit. We'll talk about the European ones first. When I thought of Dankula, Robinson, and Carl, my belief was that if they won, there's a chance here where they could actually stand in the European Parliament and wreak a little havoc. A little chance of it, because because in European Parliament you have to let people speak. You can't shout them down. You're not allowed to. So they could say anything, but
yes, they could.
I don't,
and have a translator translate it.
Yeah, so I don't know if they'll win. I really don't. I don't understand the European elections enough. I don't understand the view with people, but this might not happen because of what's been going on behind closed doors with regards to agreeing something with the Labour Party that will get enough votes to get the deal across the line. See, if they can agree a deal in the next, say, I think 10 days, I believe, the deal would be that we stay in the customs union, which means we can't trade abroad with you guys, which is one of the major things I'm fully against, the customs union, that is. And that means if we agree to that, then we no longer have to be running for positions in the European Union, rendering all the current campaigns redundant. I do not support it. I fully support them running for these seats because I think it's hilarious. I don't know how long they'd be able to keep their seats for if we left. I don't know whether or not they'd then have to hold a separate election or whether or not we just stay in for 5 years, because that's what they are. They're 5-year terms. But if we have what? Essentially seats, we have opinions on a table that we're not even members of. That would be interesting. I don't know how I don't believe there is a system in place to explain what happens, because it's never been done before with the European Union.
Right.
I think if one of them wins, the likeliest is Carl. I don't think Tommy.
I think he's trying the hardest.
I think Tommy is the point where he got a facial off a guy with a milkshake. I don't think the other two could win. Carl he has improved a lot. I mean, I watched him when he first started, when he was sat in his kitchen with a microphone worse than the one I started with. The echo was horrific. The guy has gone far, and he should be proud of what he's achieved. He never wanted to get involved in politics, and now he has, and he's getting criticism from people because he's getting involved in politics. Okay, cool. He knew what he was getting into. He never wanted to, but then his hand was forced, so he did it.
But I also think that what he's doing is intentional.
I think
even if he fails, he's made the move.
Exactly. Actually, that's the one thing that he can use against anyone that attacks him because he's doing something. He tried. That's the difference. They're not looking to solve a problem. They're just looking to moan about it, whereas he tried to get involved to solve the problem. Which I think is the one thing he can then hold over a lot of people before they just resort to, oh, well, you got kicked off Twitter because you sent interracial gay porn to the alt-right. I mean, and you threatened to...
Which was funny.
And you threatened Jess Phillips, who...
Did you see his newest comment?
Oh, I believe you... Oh, no. Was it when he said he wouldn't apologize? He said... Did he say
No. His newest comment was allegedly, because I have not watched the video personally, but apparently the comment was that he wouldn't do it, though he might be able to be convinced, but I don't think anybody has that much beer. And I was like, yikes.
Christ.
That's a little much.
I didn't realize he was a Viking. My mistake.
Yes, I thought so too. I'm like, he's in the wrong fucking island.
Oh dear. As far as I'm concerned, no one in this country cares. We don't do election stuff. It's not really something that interests us. The EU stuff never interests us. Hell, I don't, to this day, still don't know who my MEP is. I've never bothered to look him up, or her up. I just don't care. Never have. Because European politics aren't British politics. I care about my nation more than the continent. I'm sorry.
Oh, you white nationalist, you.
I'm not white enough. Fuck that.
Oh, fair enough.
Remember,
you blue nationalist, you.
Apparently, I'm a sea Mexican.
Sea Mexican?
Was it
Are you
land?
Formorian?
Or was it land something Mexican?
Sure.
I can't remember. Okay, Ask Michaela on the server. I can't remember. It's too much effort.
I'll ask. But my point is about the whole thing is I would love to see them make it, because at the very least I want them to combat Articles 13 and 11.
Yeah. Okay. So, as we know, people balls their voting up anyway, so it'd be very interesting to see how that turns out. Moving on from that, I guess I may as well talk about one of the two things that are the focal point of my thing this evening. So I'm going to put something on the screen for everyone in a second. I will anyway. Recently, the England, Northern Ireland held local elections. These elections were for council seats. Now, council seats aren't... I don't believe they're paid jobs, because a number of them have real full-time jobs away from it. I think they volunteer, I think. I think these people... I can't remember if they have salaries or not. I don't think they do. It doesn't matter. But these people sit on councils, and they then, if they're controlled by certain parties, they will then dictate where money goes and what policies they do as a council want to introduce. They have certain powers anyway. Not much, though. When they are paid. Thank you, Ventilo. Thank you for clearing that up. In any case, councillors, they do have a job to an extent to maintain certain things, and also then enact policies of their government, if they can. Like cuts, it's their job. They're the ones that have to find the money to save, which is quite tricky. They get money from the government, and then they can raise money from taxes, if they were council tax especially, and other initiatives, taxes, whatever. They can do that. Fundraisers, that's them as well. Mayors for some towns are heavily involved in this. Okay, so this was a bit of a damning statement. This particular local election was, in the sense that while the Conservatives and Labour are still the top two parties, Labour didn't make the gains people thought they'd make, and the Conservatives lost about a third of their, maybe 25% actually. Is this before and after? We'll see. I'll put it on screen for people. Here we go.
That's quite a lot.
So the Conservatives lost 1,300 seats and a total of 43 councils that they controlled. They were in charge of these. That meant they could then enact their policies best And some of them were safe seats. They were safe spots. This is going to be bad for the MPs who are in those areas for the constituencies, because then they know their jobs are in danger. The 43 councils don't necessarily mean 43 constituencies. Some could be joint councils. It's strange. But the big gains, Liberal Democrats, who barely have any MPs in Parliament, but Sir Vince Cable's incredibly happy about this, the current leader of the Liberal Democrats, who looks like he is, basically a walking, talking mummy. And I don't mean mother, I mean corpse wrapped in fucking cloth. They've now gained control of 10 councils. Labour only lost 81, but they still lost 81 seats and 6 councils. They control 33 less than Labour. Is it bad that you didn't vote, Adam? No, I don't really give a shit. Personally, I don't care either. Residents Association, I don't know who they are, gained 40 seats and 1 council. The Greens gained 193 additional seats. No councils. They don't control any councils at all. They just have more seats. They're basically like marge or butter on bread. Spread really thin, doesn't really amount to much. You have others with gains. Oh, UKIP, big hit here, lost 145 seats down to 31. But one of the biggest gains next to the Liberal Democrats here is Independent. Literally just called Independent. And they are up 615, with a number also here, no overall control.
Damn.
It's just... Oh, you got here in the chat, there was a time I thought Vince Cable would say that the Dems, but these days I think the party is just lost. He is supposed to be leaving. Councils, let's find out. Let's go to D. Dover. Ah, Conservative hold. Cool. Right, well I'm technically a part of the Dover constituency, so yes, mine is a conservative thing. That means my MP, Charlie Elphick, is essentially safe.
So are these then basically seats that might go in Parliament?
Any council that was lost then becomes a potential swing for a different party in the future.
That's right, because you guys vote on parties.
We do, yes. They vote on individuals in those constituencies, but yes, they represent a party. I'm looking to see if... let's see. Oh, hang on, no. Where is it? Is it in B, where I grew up? Is it here? No, it might be up further down by R, perhaps. Reigate Banstead, Conservative hold. Okay, so I grew up around Reigate area. In Smallfield and Reigate. Smallfield is a part of Burstow, and I don't know where Burstow is. It's not in the B area, so I'm confused. But Reigate's a Conservative hold as well. I actually was surprised by that. What about Red Hill? Oh, Red Hill might be part of Reigate and Banstead as well. Never mind. There are some seats here that I'm looking at. Like, so, you go to North Somerset. Conservative lost it to NOC. What was NOC again? I do apologise.
No control.
Yep. No overall control, yes. And that would be North East Somerset, Mr. Mogg. That is dangerous for him. So
what about the oh god, what is Swindon?
Swindon, let's have a look. Swindon, Conservative hold.
Interesting.
So yes, it's all turned out really badly for the Conservatives, mostly. Huge gains for Liberals and for Independent. And this is a bit of a damning statement. It is because of Brexit. And to further cement this, I am going to put an image on the screen. I just need to go get it. Basically, the damning statement being that people were failed. And so when people put images like this, I can't vote for your party, stop Brexit please, or people go for leave the EU on World Trade Organization terms, spoiling their ballot because they were betrayed, or perhaps going with this, Brexit. Simple fact is, people voted for something, they haven't got it. Therefore, they are angry, and rightly so. So now, yet again, another protest vote has taken place. This protest vote has come at the cost of 1,300 councillors, technically 1,500 if you include UKIP's loss and Labour's, who have all gone to different parties. Lib Dems are renowned for wanting to remain, and Independent is absolutely up in the air. Because no one knows what the independents are specifically. Because there's too many. It is...
And they're independent.
Yeah, it's dangerous now. Because now we don't know what's going to happen. This does affect how Go on.
The scariest thing that I'm thinking of is, for all intents and purposes, having no set of ethics or having no faith in your parties is a very dangerous precedent, because you may vote in somebody who is independent or somebody who is non-affiliated, rather, and you might get somebody who is actually worse than the devil you know.
Yes, you're quite right. I'll be honest, it's... On the 259 councils, it's just so dangerous. Many are calling for May to leave now because of this. And understandably so, because her handling of Brexit has been absolutely reckless. It is so dangerous for her to still be in a job where she is not able to do a damn thing right. She can't do it right because she doesn't know how to do the job. It's just tragic at this point. I just think it's an insult to be British when your British Prime Minister is doing everything she can to screw the British people over.
Well, I mean, it could be worse. You could be French.
True, but we don't quit. I think with what's going on now, the dangerous path we're going down is people are going to keep voting and voting and voting to confuse everyone, meaning we're going to be stuck in a quagmire of indecisiveness because we can't reach a consensus anymore. It's so...
That's where a system like ours comes into play. Those who do know what they want can vote for... Because technically, when you have a ballot in America, you have all of the representatives, including all the parties and all of the independents. You can vote for whomever that is up for that nomination.
Yeah.
This radically can sway the power. It's why we don't ever get third parties.
Yeah.
Because let's say you had a Republican, a Libertarian, and a Democrat all going at a governorship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a Libertarian and a Republican is likely going to split the vote of the conservatives in that area.
Yeah.
Which will give a shoo-in for that Democrat.
Right.
However, the more you go down the line, the more you get more localized. You find that the people collectively know what they want more. So a mayor, for example, could be very, very Republican, but the state could be very Democrat. This happens a lot with gerrymandered districts. So what you would end up having is actually a governor who is then subject to the representatives of those areas in their state senate.
Yeah.
And that's how we then check that balance. And that's why the Electoral College does work for us. It just doesn't look like it works, but that's because people don't actually care about their state senators.
Or they argue
which pisses me off.
Or they argue from the position that because they didn't get the result they wanted, the Electoral College is to blame and must be abolished.
Yeah, that too. But I get really pissed off when people don't know their state senators, because you know how we've been passing, certain states have been passing marijuana laws, for instance.
Yes, I'm familiar with this.
Well, it's not a federal thing that's allowing you to do that. In fact, it's your state senate that is deciding on that.
Okay.
So when I saw that my state senator was pushing for he was all right with legalization of marijuana, but only specific oils, creams, and tinctures, and strictly medicinal. And he even touted and was very proud of a very strict marijuana policy. So I immediately fucking tweeted at him saying, listen, I accept that you're a libertarian and you've got free speech platform on the mind, but what you just said here is fucking retarded.
I used to argue with Undoomed about legalization because it was fun, and his position was always legalize it so we can tax it, so we can make money off it.
That is a very extreme
My
libertarian way to think about it.
my position was I was always very concerned more with the health of the people, and that would then mean that it would have to be it's very tricky with weed because the different strains.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to regulate and also get it right so you don't hurt people, because some people will have adverse effects.
Yeah,
And
some
so
people are allergic.
so when I go taxing people, my concern has always been about the individual's health, and that's
Which
where
is
we
a fair
which is where we always clashed, and it was always quite funny because he'd get very angry about it, and I'd say I still care more about the person than about a dollar bill. Your money's cute and everything, but seriously, my pound note just looks nicer.
I agree, but that was just an example.
I get it. It's
Why your state senator is so important. So in your localized election, it could be argued that your localized election is actually a better reflection of the opinions of the people than your MP elections.
Okay, so it quite possibly is, but the one thing we have yet to see, and it's quite important, is the turnout. Because I think that's an important factor in this, considering how high the turnout has been for recent elections. It would be good to know whether the turnout for this council election was as high, and I'm waiting for that information, because I have a strange feeling it's not anywhere near as high. I'd argue it might be in the 50% region.
I think it might be even lower.
Possibly, because it's not, people don't regard it as important, but also that would then indicate, and most say that this indicates that, you see it on the thumbnail of this stream, it indicates that apparently Remain wins. Not really, because if the turnout is as low as I think it is, it just indicates that Leave didn't turn up.
So I saw a meme spoiled vote,
Yeah.
and it was an Endgame spoiler on it.
Yeah.
I think fucking Sargon posted it on Facebook, and I was pissed. Not because I actually got spoiled from Endgame, but it was just a dick move.
It was something. I've seen the meme, but I've also seen Endgame, so
Right, same. We'll talk about it after this.
yeah.
But let's see. Turnout was about 33.5% for that area.
Lol.
Damn, that's sad.
Oh, that turn. Hang on, let me just take a victory sip there for the quality turn. Blackberry moonshine. Delicious.
But no, that's a very sad turnout, and that's why people push like the every 2 years vote kind of thing in the United States. It's because that's really important. You really do have to go in there and vote.
Yeah, it keeps you on your toes. Reflection of current public opinion. We do it
It
every.
keeps you in the know too.
I think council elections are quite a lot more frequent than general elections. So that's something. Shall we move on to the final story?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I've got my hang on, I'm going to move my keyboard for this. My 3 pages of notes. Okay. So we are going to...
prepared.
Yeah, seriously, I wrote a lot of notes. So...
On some thick-ass paper, too.
It's a really nice notebook with like a gold edge to each page.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's got these Nordic runes on the sides.
Appreciate.
It's considered an enchantment notebook. It's just a notebook with a fancy pencil wand. I don't use the pencil because it's shit. So, Gavin Williamson is an MP, and he was the MP, the Defence Secretary. He was appointed in 2017 to a somewhat important position. He's recently gotten into a considerable amount of trouble to the point where he has been sacked. He was offered resignation, but we'll get to that soon. He was sacked after a inquiry claimed to have found a leak at the National Security Council meeting. This leak is in regards to Huawei building a 5G net, or helping build a 5G network in the UK. This falls under a certain law, which we'll get to soon as well. Now, Williamson, after he was sacked, in fact, in his own letter after being offered resignation, which we'll get to as well soon enough, refused to resign because if he had, it would admit guilt on his whole department and himself. But as he believes there's no guilt to be had, or no guilt at all, he had to accept being sacked instead. He believes that he was sacked by someone called Sir Mark Sedwell. Now, Sir Mark Sedwell is, among many things, a senior cabinet secretary. And Williamson, the MP, former defence secretary, actually wants a police investigation so as to exonerate himself and the civil servants that worked for him. Rather interestingly, the Conservative Party haven't pushed for this to go to the police, because they claim this is now down to the National Security Council and another department that I now can't remember. And the Conservative Party. Right. Well, rather interestingly, Sir Mark Sedwell has, about 2 hours ago, he was 2 hours ago ordered to hand over the proof for the leak by the Conservative Party, who are clearly upping the ante on the investigation side of it. But this seems odd, because they've already done the presuming guilt without facts and took someone's word to fire someone. The same people that won't take this to the police over something that by definition falls under a certain law being broken in this country. Now, there is a contradiction to all of this. And the contradiction is that the micromanaging Prime Minister did in fact say that she had compelling evidence when she met Gavin Williamson to essentially set up the day for firing him. Right, now either she is lying or doing what I earlier stated in micromanaging and hiding information from the party, which is a direct misleading of politicians, which no one can do. Many believe that Gavin Williamson was right to be sacked. Many more believe he should be arrested and that this should be investigated by the police, because they believe that this breaches the Official Secrets Act of 1989, which is not, as many of you will think, an American policy. It is in fact a law. I have linked it below, along with a few articles related to all of this. The basic premise is, it is an offence to disclose information related to defence, international relations, and information entrusted to international organisations. There are others, but these are the three more relevant to this particular case, and they do carry sentences.
Okay.
There's a bit more to this, in the sense that the Prime Minister did, when she wrote a letter to him, she said that she, and I'll read a quote, it is vital for the operation of good government and for the UK's national interest in some of the most sensitive and important areas that the members of the NSC, for our armed forces, our security and intelligence agencies, and the most senior levels of government, are able to have frank and detailed discussions in full confidence, that the advice and analysis provided is not discussed or divulged beyond that trusted environment. That is why I commissioned the Cabinet Secretary, Sedwell, to establish an investigation into the unprecedented leak from the NSC meeting last week, and why I expected everyone connected to it, ministers and officials alike, to comply with it fully. You undertook to do so. I am therefore concerned by the manner in which you have engaged with this investigation. There is more to it, but essentially it comes down to, shady. It's quite long. I will actually, what I'll do is, for those who haven't, because I have a whole letter, the letter that the Prime Minister sent is in the chat. Gavin Williamson, though, has actually written a response, and I'm going to put that on the screen because this is what he said before he got fired. We'll go to the second paragraph. I'm sorry that you feel recent leaks from the NSC originated in my department. I emphatically believe this was not the case. I strenuously deny that I was in any way involved in this leak, and I am confident that a thorough and formal inquiry would have vindicated my position. I have always trusted my civil servants, military advisors, and staff. I believe the assurances they have given me. I appreciate you offering me the option to resign, but to resign would have been to accept that I, my civil servants, my military advisors, or my staff were responsible. This was not the case. Essentially, the buck does stop with him, so many could use that as a validation for getting rid of him. And Paul Gascoigne, you're quite right, it does get complicated. And I get it. Which is why I still actually want the police to get involved in this. Because if the information was not meant to be leaked, and it was as sensitive as we are being led to believe, then it is a criminal-related thing, and the police should be involved. And I think it'd be very interesting to see how this plays out, because if Sidwell doesn't hand over the information, or he does, and it proves that this guy did or did not, then we either have a case where he will get arrested, or he won't get arrested, and he will probably be exonerated, because his political career right now is in turmoil, in the sense that he doesn't have a future until he's exonerated. He's not Amber Rudd, he doesn't get a second chance. Because he's a white man. Okay?
You're a fucking white male.
Exactly. And I think until Sidwell, whatever, until the twat in cabinet secretary position offers up the information that proves Mr. Williamson's guilt, all we have is literally he said, she said. And that was enough for the Prime Minister to finally do something you rarely see, and that was stomp her foot on the floor and fire somebody. She actually acted for once, which many have credited her for, but in the context of not knowing all the information which apparently her party didn't know, it's very odd in the sense that she's decided to do it, but it's either because she knows everything and has acted on it, or she's just acting on it because she's acting on it, because apparently this one time in her life she's decided optics are important.
So that actually makes me even more concerned, because it's out of character for her to act so definitively.
Exactly.
But she's alleged to know information about this. Therefore, that leads me to believe, now call it a conspiracy if you want, that whatever the leak was actually related more to the party's optics, or some threatened, some backdoor deal that she needs to keep quiet.
Yeah. No, I
So if the police investigated it, then it leads to another possibility of leaks.
Yeah.
Of even more information.
Oh, it does.
Of sensitive information.
It's going to get, until I know more, this is all I can offer, but to me it just feels shady. And I agree with Paul Gascoigne. It's sad that people can be booted out without an investigation or trial. I believe in due process. I believe if you're going to make the accusation that someone has leaked secrets that are highly important to be kept, secret, they have breached rules, they have broken the law, therefore, you must go down that path. You cannot use parliamentary privilege to negate justice if you believe that you have enough evidence to confirm somebody has committed an offence. We have politicians who have lost their seats recently for lying. If that's the case, then surely this man should also be fucked. Because what he has done is far worse than lying about a speeding ticket. It's that simple, really.
Now, the position that he held, was that an appointment or was that an elected position?
He is appointed to Defense Secretary.
Okay, so in our system, a president reserves the right to fire anybody who he has appointed. And people may not like it, but it is perfectly within his legal rights.
Yes, same here. It really is.
So even if the person just didn't do the job that you wanted him to do, you could fucking fire him. I don't know if Theresa May just said, oh, a leak came from your department. I didn't like you to begin with, so bye.
That's where I mentioned earlier the buck stops with him. So even if it came from somebody marginally connected to his department, she's well within her right to say, yeah, you fucked up. Problem is, this also all contradicts how the fuck Chris Grayling's in office when he's made many, many mistakes that have cost far more money.
Right. See, now that was what led me to my opinion earlier. That something was shady.
Yeah, so this
because
is
she
where,
seems to protect those who help her.
exactly, it's
very quid pro quo.
It is very quid pro quo, as you're quite right. To me, this shows elitism until we know more about what Sidwell's sitting on. Best I can say is this doesn't feel right. It makes me feel I feel uncomfortable. And when he says he believes he was stitched up, until the information comes out, he has a point. Because we don't know, and obviously they don't have to tell us either. This is where it gets worse, because it could be the case that he eventually gets another position offered back to him if he's proven innocent, and Sidwell gets fucked. But Sidwell is also well connected within the party as well, because he also campaigned for people. He is connected. It is quite sad, isn't it?
I would love to say that it's sad and like, man, I can't believe that things are going this way, but I have to say it feels very much just the product of the time.
Oh, it really is. You're quite right.
And that's the saddest comment, honestly, is that
is.
I'm not shocked anymore.
No, I'm not either. It's tragic. Anyway.
Yeah, I think honestly that by itself is the tragedy. Not even the actions, but the fact that we are so just expecting this kind of shit that it's just meh.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm done with this. Do you have anything else you'd like to discuss?
No, that's it.
Do you want to shill anything?
From my end? No, but if everyone wants to go and support my channel to save me from crippling depression, I would love that.
Go and subscribe to Trump's channel link below and donate to his Streamlabs so he can buy himself some happiness.
Yay! Thank you.
My friend Discanar is currently streaming over on Twitch. So what I'll do, I will go and get his Twitch. Well, he's streaming on YouTube as well, but I figure I don't care about his YouTube. So this is his Twitch. He's there at the moment. There's an ad. I'm skipping the survey. He's playing Minecraft. Please consider going over there and giving him some shit from me. As we're done here, would you like to say goodnight, Trups?
Good night, Trups.
Good night, Trups. How dare you skoglink that, you bastard. Good night, Trups.